to Going the Distance, the Rocky Series podcast. I'm your host, and with me together again, officially, is Kyle and Katie. It's so good to see you. We missed you.
Likewise, I missed you guys. It's been a bit.
Well, it's been at least 4 months.
Mm-hmm.
You look great. It looks like you lost the 50 pounds that we said you gained.
Yep.
I think it was 75 we decided on.
You know, it was an incredibly long flight, so it did allow me to lose 50 to 75 pounds.
Oh, wow.
Where did you go again? I can't remember.
Maldives, like literally the other side of the planet. So it was a long trek, but it was great.
Oh.
Where is that?
It's like kind of in the middle of nowhere in the Indian Ocean. I guess like the closest country would be like Sri Lanka or India.
Okay, all right. It's warm there, it looks like, yeah.
Yeah, 85 every day, all day.
Nice. Well, I'm so glad you're safe and you're back safe and everything's good. I'm excited today. Kyle, sorry, how are you doing? We missed you too, of course. We kind of had our reunion the other day.
Yeah, same old, same old. Just enduring this week of work before the Christmas break.
Yeah. Well, yeah, time this recording. Merry Christmas to both of you because we'll be on our... Christmas will come and go before our next recording, so Merry Christmas to both of you.
Same.
You Merry Christmas to you too.
And I guess it's only... Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Just said happy holidays just because.
Yes, we don't want to offend anybody. Yes, happy holidays, Kwanzaa, Festivus, whatever it is. We want everyone to be happy. Be happy and enjoy your break. Be safe and enjoy your break. A lot has happened in the 4 months that I've been gone. Obviously, people who listen to this podcast have already heard my thoughts and Kyle's thoughts and some other the guests that I've had on the Rocky IV Director's Cut. But I think people, our listeners, are clamoring, they're chomping at the bit to hear me and Kyle and Katie finally give our thoughts on Rocky IV, Rocky vs. Drago, the Ultimate Director's Cut by Stallone. I've seen it twice now. I want to get right into it because we don't have any fan mail, if you can believe it. We got no new emails. So I guess Greg the First doesn't listen to our show anymore. So we don't have any fan mail. So I shouldn't even call it fan mail. I should call it listener mail. They're probably not fans of us. We should call it listener mail. So if you listen to our show and you want to leave a comment, come at us at gtdwittrr@gmail.com. Again, check out the show links below to see our Facebook page, Twitter feed, and to join our Discord. Yes, I'm going to keep plugging this Discord. Eventually, I can see it growing. I believe in it. It is the wave of the future. It's a way for you listeners to actually just come watch us chat. And you can chat with us. You can chat with us before the show starts. You can talk to us after the show starts. And if you really got something cool to say, we'll either say it during the live discussion. Like we'll say, hey, so-and-so says XYZ. We've done that on a couple of other episodes. Or if you're just really that great, we might have you on. Like when Luis came on and actually did like an emergency guest host. And he did great. So if you think you've got the skills to pop in and say hi for a few minutes, we'd love to hear from you. Okay. Well... All right, I don't know where to begin. Let's just start with the general feeling and or your viewing experience. Kyle, you saw it through what streaming service, let's say, and what was your environment and when you sat down, what was your overall feeling about the film?
Yeah, I don't know. I didn't have super high expectations, but it was pretty good. Like I thought it was well done.
Okay. You weren't disappointed by it by any stretch of the imagination.
No, I wasn't. But the thing is, I didn't go into it thinking this is going to be the greatest thing ever type of thing.
You can't do that.
Any little extra you get is a good thing.
Katie?
I didn't have high expectations. I didn't know what to think. It just seemed like there's a lot of lead up time to it. So it was like highly anticipated. We kept hearing that there was going to be all this extra time added. I mean, this might be a hot take, but to some degree I was disappointed.
Okay. That's fair. We'll talk about those things. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Okay. Like you guys, I had low expectations or very little to low expectations. Maybe I was even tentative. Like, what are we doing here? What's happening? When I heard about, no robot and all that stuff, I felt like, what are we doing here? It's one thing to say no Jar Jar. I can kind of get that. Like, take Jar Jar out of a film, that's one thing. But take out the robot, it's like, now I have my final thoughts on this. I don't want to say it right now because I don't want to say everything at once, but about how I feel about this film overall. Let's get into some of the big changes. Now, Katie, you said it. Yeah, there's some like new scenes and what have you, but it's the same length. So we were kind of confused. I know when this came out, there was some confusion because we heard there's new 40 minutes or 40 minutes of different kind of footage. I think a lot of us took that as it's almost like an extra half-hour film that we were going to see. We knew he was going to take stuff out, but he literally is. Yeah. He took stuff out, but replaced it with stuff in.
I was really worried about that. I find the Rocky movies a little long anyway. Like, I think I'm used to like our hour and a half films we see nowadays.
Right.
And the Rocky ones are usually, I don't think Rocky 4 is quite 2 hours, but they're a little
What planet are
bit
you
longer.
living on?
Yeah.
They're all really short.
Rocky
For
2
sure.
was really long. Rocky 2 was like 2 hours.
That's maybe the only one.
I think the Creed films are.
I think
pushed it
Rocky
to-
1 was near 2 hours.
Yeah, so I think 3 and 4 are short. 5 is like the next shortest, or 6. But yes, Rocky, the first Rocky and Rocky 2 are the longer, and I think the Creeds are kind of long. I think they're a little bit longer.
Creeds are, yeah.
Yes, but
So
you're right.
40 minutes extra for me would be way too much.
That's fair.
That's what I was really wrong.
So yeah, we had stuff taken out and stuff put in. Well, let's talk about some of the stuff that was put in first off. Let's talk about the addition of Rocky and Apollo in the backyard before they go up to the dining room for that discussion. So what did you think of that little scene there where Apollo's holding the football and they're having the discussion about, Apollo says, what did you say to the press? So we see here that the press or the people have already asked Drago's people directly have asked Rocky, hey, do you want to fight Drago? And Rocky's response was basically, I don't know. Like, he didn't have any real interest whatsoever. He actually said, I don't know. I'll fight him when I have to. Meaning, if he gets ranked and he's a legit challenger, I guess I'll fight him. But he had no real interest in fighting this guy for an exhibition.
Yeah, I thought that was a good insight. And there is a hint in the movie. Paulie says, isn't Rocky supposed to whack this bum out first? So this kind of makes that statement, like, it clarifies it. When you watch the original film, you're like, I don't know that. Like, what do you mean? And they do say they're hoping an exhibition match with Rocky Balboa too. So, but I think Rocky saying that, I think that was the smart move, right? Like, this guy isn't entitled to a title shot, even though Rocky himself obviously wasn't either and got one. But in any case, I think that was a useful scene to have in there.
Yeah, absolutely.
It was just nice to see them in a playful way and Carl Weathers throwing the football. I thought it was cute. And I thought Apollo wasn't asking out of pure curiosity. I think he just wanted to make Apollo wants to fight him. So I think that was his reason for asking.
I think it also did expand the whole idea that Rocky was not keen on doing this, that it didn't interest Rocky at all. I think he saw himself aging. I think he even saw himself like, I don't know if I want to fight this guy. Maybe he already thought about retiring. He didn't seem to be in it. It did not interest him at all. And I think it was good to see that for Rocky, the limelight or all this stuff, it was of no interest to him.
Yeah, I think too, like Rocky, his first fight against Clubber in the interview, he said this is his last fight for sure.
Yeah.
And then his second fight against Clubber, the commentator said it's rumored to be his last one, win, lose, or draw. Yeah, I don't think Rocky's interested in fighting. Like, I don't get the impression he was ducking Drago because he was afraid of him. I think he, like you said, he just didn't feel like it.
Yeah.
I also kind of liked that scene too, like with the throwing of the football. I also wonder, like, if Carl Weathers that was his idea or something, because he was a pro football player, right? So that is something like the actual the actor would have enjoyed doing in that scene.
Played in the CFL, I believe, for a little bit, or he was.
Yeah, and NFL. Yeah, he played for the BC Lions and I think also the Oakland Raiders.
Okay, that's awesome. Yeah, he looked great, and I forgot just how good Carl Weathers just in general looks in this film. Seeing him in the Drago fight, which we'll get to, that just how good he looks. It was just a fantastic build on that guy. Before we actually got to that additional scene, we should mention, now, though they're not really additional footage, we see the movie start off right away with Rocky 3, essentially like a mini recap, not just of the fight against Clubber Lang, but actually the loss, and then Apollo training Rocky, and then of course the victory over Clubber on the second fight. So we see like a 6-minute mini movie episode of Rocky 3, and I believe that this is obvious to establish for any kind of first-time viewer of the series that these two are friends, they have a history, that they've worked together closely, I think they're trying to salvage what they can to show how deep this friendship really is, why essentially Apollo's death would mean so much to Rocky. So they garnered more footage and history than as a reminder, hey, these guys do have a past. Because I think that's one of the criticisms of the films, story-wise, is how close were they? Why are they so close in a short period of time?
Can I just say I hated it?
Okay, go.
Hated it.
Say why.
I understand for all the reasons you just said. Like,
okay.
That's what I was thinking too. Like, why'd they do that? Also, it was 6 minutes. It was a really long time. Like, they took out all the robot and just replaced it with this. So I think that this film is actually shorter than the original, but the original opening was so much better. And it also showed their deep friendship in a shorter period of time. So you lose the iconic art at the beginning. And maybe it's just that I'm so used to the way that 3 ends, the way that 4 begins is that. And I really didn't want it messed with.
That's fair. I agree with you that I don't think I quote unquote hated it as much, but it was troubling, and it was troubling even on the second viewing. Side note, I saw the movie with my oldest son and his girlfriend, the recut, and she has never seen a Rocky film, so I was interested to see kind of what her response would be and how someone who's never seen a Rocky film would kind of, does this work as a standalone film? In many ways it does, because it's like a James Bond film. It has its own, or even a Harry Potter film. You might not know their history of characters, but each film has its own little adventure that they overcome, right? You might not know the history or what comes next, but you can kind of watch each Harry Potter film by itself, even though, or an Avengers film, even though you might not know the history of every character. So I think Rocky 4 works that way. But even at the beginning, when Rocky 3 started, when we saw this long 6-minute, I actually paused the film to talk to the person who's never seen Rocky before, say, okay, they're actually not showing Rocky 4. They're showing events from the third film. They're doing a really long, but this is the reason why, because they've done all this. His manager died. And so this film was legitimately made for fans. And so I think that was kind of a misstep on Sly's part by showing this footage. It should have been even more, either a longer exposition or just say, show Mickey die even. Take another 30 seconds, show Mickey die. And then have Apollo say, I know having your manager die on you, threw your head out of the game or whatever. They didn't put that part into the recut. I don't think they even mentioned the death of Mickey.
No, didn't.
No, but I had explained, like, why is Rocky so down? Why did he lose that fight so badly? He didn't have the eye of the tiger, but to a first-time viewer, what the heck's the eye of the tiger? You're right. It actually presented more problems for a first-time viewer, and I would have recommended to Sly, if you're going to put this out there to the ethos, you want to grab new viewers. And that's the good thing about the Creed films, is people enjoy the Creed films as standalone films, and they want to go back and watch the Rocky films, and the people have actually done that. This film, you can't really watch it as a standalone film like the Creed films. You have to know the history to watch this recuts. I don't know if that worked for a first-time viewer.
Agreed.
Yeah, I agree with that. I agree with all of that. I think, honestly, almost everyone viewing this is not a first-time viewer. Probably. Yeah. I don't know what the statistics are. But you're right. Even for a first-time viewer, it's like, well...
Look, at the end of the day, it's a business. You want to cast a wide net. So it was a creative decision on Sly's part to say, you know what? I'm going to make 6-minute previously on Rocky 3 that sort of explains these events of Rocky 3, but still not enough where it's going to leave people confused. And so I would have just said, either add another minute explaining how, the beach scene with Adrian and Mickey dying. Like, you could have easily montaged it. He could have taken away the whole, like, statue scene of him throwing so he could have actually tightened that Rocky 3 preview into a 6-minute. Look at Lord of the Rings. They did how did the ring come into the possession of all these witch kings in 5-6 minutes, explaining the ring story very easily. Like, I think you could have done
those movies are like 9 hours long, so 5 minutes isn't a whole lot. But this movie is an hour and a half.
That was the first misstep. So that being said, that was the first misstep. And I don't want people turning off this podcast thinking we're going to shite all over this, because we're not. But I think that was, for me, I admit, Katie, I was like, ooh, that didn't sit very well. But then we cut into, right away, Apollo in the pool. We've missed now the birthday party with Paulie, him driving up the driveway. Hey, who gave you that black eye? And all that stuff. So the sun's been cut out, no video camera in his face. Whoa, we don't have that.
It was cute though. I liked it, and he looks really good in that hat that he's wearing. And the kid asks, "Where'd you get the hat?" A friend.
Same friend.
Where'd you get the black eye? Same friend.
Same friend. Yeah,
anyway.
I love it.
Yeah.
But
you're weird, Dad. I think them having their own personal fight tells you a lot more about their friendship than the 6-minute recap of Rocky 3, especially considering, to understand Rocky 3, you really need to understand at least Rocky 1, if not Rocky 2. I think just them having that fight thing and talking, that's the best way to do it, frankly. And if you're looking at it from a business idea, if someone really... make people curious, even if they're like, oh, I don't get how they're friends or something like that. That may make them want to rent or buy the other Rocky movies.
Good point.
Be like, hey, what's going on here? Into what Ryan said earlier about just in general, if Rocky and Apollo were really that close, I think that is a good point. They get close in Rocky 3. I think when you fight someone, though, there's probably... Usually you close with people, you've gone through something together. A good example would be like soldiers who fight together in war. develop like a brotherhood with each other. Like they're closer with each other than even family sometimes. And so I hear, like, I don't have any experience with that, but on the same vein, it's like Rocky and Apollo like almost killed each other in the ring. They probably understand certain things about each other that other people wouldn't. They understand each other's experiences more. So there is an argument to be made why they're close, but it's hard for just a normal viewer to understand that.
Okay, so now we see, of course, the sequence of Apollo now seeing the news coverage. It's a little bit of shortened coverage now. We don't have them walking out of the airport. It's just them at the news coverage that we want to fight the champion. I think there was some ADR there of a reporter asking I forget the exact dialogue, but you could tell there was some like newer dialogue, or the voice sounded different than the original cut when the reporter's asking the questions to Drago or Drago's team. I noticed that the TV still didn't have a plug. It was not plugged in. I was wondering if Sly was going to add the battery-operated TV. Apparently, that's what Apollo had. We go to the backyard sequence that we talked about, where we get a little bit. That's where Rock actually says, "Hey, come up to Adrian's making supper," so that's why he's at the dining room table. Kind of makes sense. They've had the discussion, and then Adrian does her sequence at the table where she mentions like, we're not barbarians anymore. We're not. This is modern times. We don't settle our differences with countries with sending our best warriors in the ring to make U.S. versus Russia. This is a political thing that Russia's doing to stay out of it. Yeah, your thoughts now on the kitchen sequence, that new scene with Adrian and Rocky in the kitchen, and Adrian giving her thoughts on Apollo outside of his earshot.
I thought it was nice. I know they were working with scraps of what they had, but I don't know if it added so much else. It was just nice to see them interacting just as husband and wife in a domestic way. I did kind of wonder why the kitchen was so like ordinary looking. Didn't you guys think that? It's not super fancy.
Maybe it's the second kitchen.
Maybe.
Yeah. It did seem a little bit cramped compared to the outside of the house, the way it is. I like how we saw the help in the back doing the dishes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. I liked also how Adrian gave that exposition there saying, Apollo just likes to be in the spotlight. He just can't handle not being loved. The guy just needs that attention, which then explains the whole dance sequence. I think it makes the dance sequence more even believable in a weird way, because he's a showman, he's a performer, he loves the adoration of the crowd, he touches up his hair with his gloves and all that stuff that Apollo does, but it plays into Adrian actually just verbalizing like, this guy's a showman, he loves the fans, he loves the adoration, it's just the way he is. And Apollo might be saying it's a political statement, but we all know he's basically putting himself in a dangerous position just to have people scream his name one more time.
Did lead right into that though, didn't it? It seemed like like after she said that, like the next scene was the James Brown.
Yeah, but before we even get there, it was interesting. She also made a very interesting comment where she said that if you don't back him on this, he won't do it. And I thought that was an interesting statement or an interesting writing on Sly's part, but not quite in character with really who Apollo was. I think Apollo would have done it regardless. I think if Rocky didn't back it, I think Apollo would have been like, I'm doing it anyways without you, Stallion. He definitely wanted Stallion in it because he goes, do this one last time for me type thing. And what do you think? Do you think if Rocky really said no, that Apollo would say no?
I think Apollo still would have done it. I don't know if it was in the original and I just didn't notice it, but he says, stand in my corner this one last time. Well, Rocky's never stood in his corner.
Yeah, it's true.
So
when they were watching the fight and Rocky says, I don't know if you don't know this, Apollo, that isn't us anymore. Well, maybe that's not you. It's, I'm still this guy and all that stuff. And when Rocky says, well, do you think maybe it's you against yourself? They shorten that. And because Apollo said in the original cut something to the effect of like, if it's not me against, then who is it against? Well, do you think maybe it's you against yourself? So they actually cut right into that. They didn't they cut out the dialogue of Apollo saying, if it's not against them, who's it against? So they actually shortened that little speech there that from Rocky. This rolled right into the it's you against yourself. They basically kept the comedy bits down.
A lot.
Yeah.
Yeah, I actually like that. Rocky has had some comedic moments, but that's not its thing. It's not a comedy. It's a drama series with some action in it.
I said nails.
Yeah. Well, so I agree, Kyle. It's not really Rocky's forte, but there's a lot of good comedic moments by some of the other characters like Apollo and Paulie, and those were drastically cut. There's no locker room scene anymore at all.
I don't like Paulie in Rocky IV. In fact, I don't like Paulie Rocky 3, 4, and 5, actually. I find him too silly. I kind of like I like the dark Paulie in Rocky 1.
You do. Oh my God, he's a jerk in the.
Well, look, I know he's a jerk. I'm not saying I like the characters and I like what he says and does, but it's from an interest standpoint.
He's a tragic character.
Good. Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And Paulie, I like seeing his transformation in Rocky 2, where he's like well adjusted and stuff. For the most part, he does well adjusted as Paulie can be. And then Rocky 3, I just find him ridiculous. And I didn't like, for instance, in Rocky 4 when he's in Russia and he's like in the snow and he gets stuck and he's like, he makes those weird sounds.
That's my favorite. I was actually nervous they were going to lose it, and I was so happy that he was. I love that.
It's a good place to die.
They changed his line, and the original was, what a depressing vacation.
Yeah.
And they changed it. Well, why? Like,
okay.
There were just some changes that the decision as to why, it was like, this didn't add anything. Like, so why change it?
Okay. I know people are wondering, like, are you guys going to break this down like you did the other seasons? We almost could. And maybe we could go through every scene. There's a few scenes I want to talk about. So for the record, I haven't heard the Slycast review yet of this movie because I wanted to do mine first. Because I didn't want to be, take their ideas. I'm sure we're hitting some of the same points they hit anyways. But I wanted to make it clear that if we do, it's unintentional. Because I know Doug and Craig and Kunda, they all broke down this film. I'm sure they did a much better job than we're doing because they're professionals. But I will say, though, I did get word that Kunda, he has his own podcast called The Rocky Files. It's on YouTube only. I don't know if you knew that. Okay. Well, I'm not gonna lie to you. I'm a little bit chaffed a little bit because he said on the Slycast episode of the review, he said that he's really proud of himself or takes pride in the fact that his podcast has a female co-host, and he's the first Rocky podcast to have a female co-host. His Adrian. I know that stung a little bit. Well, we all know that Katie's been with us for over a year now. So it tells me two things. One, that Kunda doesn't listen to our show, which is fine. It's fine. Or he just forgot, which is fine too. But I will give him the credit that his co-host is his Adrian. That's fine. My intention of getting Katie as a co-host was never to have an Adrian. She's more of the Rocky 5 girlfriend from the front row because I heard Katie comes real cheap. So that's why.
Ha ha ha.
I thought you were going to say like Jewel or something, whatever her name was. I didn't think you'd go with the redhead in the front row.
So, Katie, thank you so much for that. Anyways, but getting back to the film, what Kyle was saying about Paulie actually reminds me about this film is that when I watched this cut, I was sad the whole time. This felt sad to me, and I don't mean like depressing, but I felt like the same kind of gloom you felt when Rocky lost all of his house and money in part 5. Mm-hmm. This movie, it felt grittier. This is what Sly was going for, but what I mean is like it just felt like, so all that 80s cheese is gone, the robot's gone, the jokes are gone. This is a drama. Even when the final fight, there's no music. There's just two guys kicking the crap out of each other. There's like, I was feeling bad for both guys. I was feeling bad for Drago. This guy was getting his head kicked in. Yeah. And this is brutal. I know I'm supposed to root for this Rocky guy, and I love Rocky, and I love the character, but I'm like, Rocky's really beating this out of this guy. There was no joy in his victory. Zero. I didn't feel any kind of elation because Drago's a puppet. He's just a soldier, and he's a puppet, and he just got his head caved in because he was told to go in the ring too. He didn't want to do this any more than Rocky wanted to. They were both kind of puppeted into the situation. I find that parts 1, 2, and 3 now are like the fun films, and parts 4, 5, and 6 are highly depressing because Rocky Balboa is extremely depressing.
Well, the first 2 kind of are too. So really 3 is the only and Mickey dies. So they're all super depressing.
Yeah, but that's the thing. 4 was the fun one. 4 was kind of the fun one, the robot and everything. Whether that's good or bad, I don't know. So I felt my mood was sadder watching this. I thought it was an accomplished. So here's the thing. I think the movie was accomplished well. I think what Sly wanted to do, he got it done. Yeah. It looked better. It took away the 80s cheese. It didn't feel like an 80s movie anymore. It really didn't. Like, you could roll right into Rocky 5 and 6. It kind of now belongs. Like, it feels like it flows. Like, you could show this film to a first-time viewer, and I don't think anyone's going to say, like, Rocky 4 feels like a superhero in a movie anymore. It feels more grounded. It rolls into Creed 2 better now. So I think everything Sly wanted got accomplished.
It's definitely more dramatic. There were a few things like explained more as making you feel more as to why. Because like originally, it didn't really explain. I remember always being sort of confused. Like, well, why does he have to? Why he lost his title or his belt or like it didn't that didn't really. I was like, why? That doesn't make sense. And I was like, why does he feel like he has to fight him? I always felt like Adrian. What is that going to accomplish?
No, she's absolutely right on the stairs. If you beat him, what does it prove? Apollo's still dead.
Yeah, and so this like sort of helped explain it a little bit more. So there was like a few things that I felt were necessary that were added. So it was more dramatic. Yeah. But I agree with you.
I kind of appreciate that personally. I don't mind something dark and sad.
No, I don't say it's a bad thing. I'm just saying the tone's changed.
That's all. Yeah, no. I understand. I think some people will. If you're really nostalgic about Rocky IV, I think that would be pretty disappointing. When I was a kid, I loved the fun part of Rocky IV.
Right.
I love that 80s cheese and stuff like that. And now I wouldn't say I tolerate it, but I accept it or I give it a pass because I'm nostalgic for Rocky IV. But if you wiped my memory clean and showed me both films and said which one I like better, I'd probably go with the darker one.
Yeah, I would too. I know. I would naturally, as an adult, that's what I would lean towards as well. Yeah. What about you, Katie?
I still have it was like Rocky IV was, I'm still gonna, for a couple reasons. Nostalgia, rewatchability, it is just more fun. And I also don't I guess you could, where do you stop? Because no matter what, you're going to make different choices. And if given the opportunity when you're 75, make different choices with the hindsight and the maturity that you have differently than when you're, super egotistical at the height of your career. So everyone could do that. But I guess there wasn't anything wrong with it. I know people give it a hard time, but it was a product of its time. It was what it was at the time. And so there's nothing wrong with that, I guess. It seemed to me more after seeing it that it was he kind of tried to correct some of what he wanted in Creed 2. And now he has the opportunity to make this fit better with Creed 2. One of the things I loved was really showing the conflict between Drago and his handlers or the Russian premier, in that, he does kind of want to show his independence and they clearly are having none of it. And then he goes back to being a robot, but it's clear that there's internal conflict there. That's not what he wants. It makes watching Creed 2 all the more heart-wrenching, seeing what Drago went through. And to your point, Ryan, like you said, you felt for him. We're supposed to be rooting for Rocky. And I guess in that, to kind of go back, so the crowd is now cheering for Rocky, but I don't know, were you cheering less for him? So it's sort of why was the crowd now cheering for Rocky? I don't know. I guess I had a lot of mixed feelings about it. I do think that the ending with the Russian premier upset and just walking out was much better, more realistic. I think that was better decision. Yeah.
Totally agree with everything you said, but let's go back to the Apollo fight, because that was one of the big changes was the Sly wanted to show that Apollo wasn't a chump. He could throw some punches. Yeah. Now, he said that, but on my second viewing, I realized, though Apollo was landing more jabs, the fight was longer, we saw more footwork from Apollo landing jabs, Drago the whole time was just sitting there taking it, and he had that hand cocked, ready to do that, because the trainer actually yells, "Attack him!" That's when Drago comes in. But what I like, though, is we do see Apollo dancing a little bit more, punching a little bit more. This fight was more brutal. The death of Apollo in the recut I found was more brutal because of that. In a weird way, I know Sly said that he wanted to show that Apollo went down with more of a fight. Mm-hmm. I found it was more brutal. I felt because Drago's, I don't know how to describe it, but
he was holding back.
He was holding back the whole time until he got the word to attack. And then once he got that word, when he hits Apollo and he almost flips in the ring, it's oh man. And there was no music and it was quiet. Did you notice the biggest change at the end? Did you notice how they edited the end?
With the look?
Well, yeah, they didn't have to look at each other. Yeah, the Rocky and Drago didn't look at each other. They didn't have a stare down. That was taken out. One of the biggest changes is that Rocky went to go throw the towel. That's how they changed it. So in this film, we see that he was going to go throw the towel, but by the time that he was about to throw the towel, it was already too late. And it was very clear by Apollo too. He told, like, they made it clear in this cut. Apollo said like 100 times, "Don't stop the fight. If you're my friend, you won't do this. Do not stop the fight." Blah blah blah. Like, he was adamantly told, because in the original cut we got a really brief guttural no when he was But this cut we get like 3 different times Apollo says, "Don't stop the fight. Don't stop the fight. Don't stop the fight." It's cut just a little bit. Correct me if I'm wrong in the comments, people, or send us an email, because it shows Rocky picking up the towel to throw it, and just as he's about to throw it, Apollo's already got the killed punch has already happened. So he was too late, but the way it was edited, it was designed to show that he was going to throw the towel, but by then it was too late. Not that he was never going to throw the towel. It was just he fought with what Apollo said, don't stop the fight, but it happened so quickly. It was cut much differently that he was going to go stop the fight, but by the time he did, it's like, oh my gosh, he's already on the canvas dead.
I don't think I really saw that he was going to. I did notice that in this version, the same thing happened where he clearly had it in his hand. Same with the original, because it just dropped, the bloody towel just dropped to the floor.
Maybe I'm reading too much into the cut, but I'm like, it screamed to me like it was a different feeling, that it looked like Rocky really wanted to throw the towel, but he was just too late. It was just, he waited too long.
Which is a little problematic, because the conversation in Creed was Rocky regretting that he should have stopped it. He had the option. I guess he could have thrown the towel earlier. He probably in the back of his mind knew he could have or should have. And that he hesitated too long. But for his hesitation, Apollo would still be here.
Louise in our Discord chat, said he never understood why Apollo needed Rocky for the Drago fight. He's the one who led the charge to fight Rocky in the first film. Then he was the one who promoted and spearheaded the training camp for Rocky versus Clubber in the second fight. He should have stuck with Duke. Grave mistake, pun intended.
He's right. Like, he doesn't need Rocky. Rocky needed him, not vice versa.
In what I'll call reality, what should have happened in the Rocky universe, Apollo, after Rocky lost to Clubber Lang, as Joe Frazier lost to George Foreman, Apollo would have stepped in and beaten Clubber like Muhammad Ali beat George Foreman, and then regain his glory, is what really would have happened, even in the Rocky universe. That clearly should have happened. Apollo could do whatever he wants. Like, he's world famous. He has the money. He has the resource. He has the persuasive power, the salesmanship. If he wanted that fight to happen, it would happen. Rocky's a good fighter. Rocky has more heart than anybody, but in terms of his ability to get something set up, it's pretty limited compared to Apollo.
Agreed. What are your thoughts on Birgit Nielsen being all but cut out of the film?
I will say, I heard you guys talking about, I heard some chatter. Maybe it was on socials or something. I didn't notice it. I mean, to be honest, there were some scenes, a couple of her lines Drago has now. There were a few scenes where she had lines where she doesn't now, but I guess I didn't notice the intentionality of it.
Yeah, no, I only knew that she was cut out of the film before seeing it, so I did make comments, I think, before I watched it, about my hesitation or fear, but funny enough, and I'll say this about the robot too, I didn't miss the robot, and I didn't miss Ludmilla Drago. I didn't, the way I thought I was going to miss. I think what Sly added and what he showcased to the forefront, fleshing out Adrian, fleshing out Apollo's relationship with Rocky, I felt that was more than adequate with no robot, no Ludmilla. So the question is going to be this. I think this is going to be the question that everyone's going to have. What's the official cut? What's the official movie? This is Sly. He's the author. He's the author. He wrote this film. This is his character. So the storyline is his. He obviously filmed what we saw. So we know this is something he had to script. This is what he had on page originally because he filmed it. This was something he had in his mind. This is not a fake cut in the sense he's not reshooting things. These are things that he had at some point. I think both films are canon. There's nothing in the recut that contradicts the original cut. If so, tell me what. Other than my towel thing, yes, I think maybe I'm reading it too much into that. Other than the towel timing, I didn't find anything in the recut that contradicts. There's a scene where Adrian and Rocky talk before, which I love. Adrian and Rocky had the discussion before he went to the car to go to the plane to Russia. I'm glad that's a great addition because it shows that Adrian wasn't pissed off, because we thought Adrian was pissed off before. She was never mad. She was just sad that he was leaving, but she was actually never angry.
Yeah.
This whole film, she was never angry. She was scared and sad, but she was never angry. But in the original cut, I was led to believe when she's looking out the window, she's pissed off, and that they kind of left without saying goodbye. They said goodbye.
Yeah.
They said goodbye. They hugged each other. She said, "I wish you wouldn't go," but she wasn't like, "Why are you going?" She just said, "I wish you wouldn't go. I'm scared, but you can go." So he went with her tentative blessing, right?
I guess I did not take in the original. She was mad. I mean, mad in a like, I don't want my husband to get hurt.
Well, like the
way.
Rocky 2 mad me. Like she did not want him to fight. There was that kind of like, I do not support this at all. But she seemed more supportive about the Drago fight than Super Fight 2.
I don't think she was at all supportive. She just knew that he was going to do what he was going to do.
There's probably that too.
It's only going to hurt him. They've been together long enough, and they've been through this song and dance before.
Right.
So I think she knows it's only going to hurt him if she.
Sorry, what I'm getting at is though, you can watch both films knowing that the canon is sound. So the scene with Rocky and Adrian. What I'm getting at, you heard Paulie's voice. Come on, the meter's running. Mm-hmm. So what I'm getting at, in that off-screen moment, he's actually with the robot. So what I'm getting at, Paulie still has his robot in this recut. They just didn't show it. Oh. This is an alternate view. It's not an alternate canon. There was never a moment in this recut that said the robot didn't exist. They just didn't show it.
Yeah.
You know what? I'm in the mood to watch the robot scenes, so I'm going to put in the original Rocky 4. I'm in the mood to watch no robot scenes. I'm going to put in the recut. It's just an alternate view. We're seeing the scene. So when Paulie yells out, "Hey, yo, the meter's running," we now know in that cut they're having their conversation in the house. Mm-hmm. And both films are canon. They're just a different angle.
Ryan, I was going to say the original's canon just because it's first. But you convinced me in your speech here that, yes, it is canon, but just from another lens, another angle. Because as individuals, we perceive some of the same events very differently. Mm-hmm. As long as you don't have things that blatantly contradict, yeah, you could make that argument. It's just canon from a different point of view.
The original is the official, though.
Sure, it came first. I think that's the argument, but I think as a fan, there was nothing in the recut that I think contradicts the canon of the original release. I could be wrong.
Yeah, I think you're probably right. I mean, there's just like minor things that shift your views on things, but no blatant contradictions. Yeah,
like the shift, that's my interpretation. Again, I believe that Adrian was kind of pissed. Like she was looking at the window kind of angry. They were like, I felt like they left without saying goodbye. If you were to ask me 2 weeks ago, I would have said they left without saying goodbye. But with the recut, they had a conversation and they left on sad terms, but they weren't on angry terms. And that actually really moved me. And I actually felt better about their relationship. I don't know. It made me happier knowing that he didn't leave to Russia with an angry wife or a very upset wife. She was scared and sad, but she was, remember in Rocky 2 when she walked up the stairs angry away from...
Yeah,
she still did that.
It seemed like silent treatment. Because sometimes, if your partner gets upset with you, sometimes they're not open about it. Mm-hmm. But you get the cold shoulder. That's what I thought when I saw the first Rocky film, is that she was just... When I leave the house to go to work, I give my wife a kiss, say goodbye, love you. If we're like fighting or something like that, and then one of us leaves without doing that, that sends a big message, right? Without actually saying a message. Right. And I feel like that's what's implied in the first one.
Good point. Now, speaking of the scene of them two right before he leaves, we did get a lot more Adrian in this one, which is awesome. She's just awesome. But her emoting in those moments, like begging him to stay, was really awesome. Mm-hmm. But I gotta say, I did not care for his reuse of... He already used the goddamn line. I never asked you to stop being a woman. Don't ask me to stop being a man. You already said that.
Very good point.
You can't use that card twice.
Strongly agreed.
Strongly a Creed, you should say.
Well, we're not reviewing Creed, though, are we?
That's true.
Although Creed's in the movie, though. Creed's in the movie, so maybe.
Katie, very good point. Thanks for reminding me. That is another hit on this cut. This is a Sly decision. So we talked about the Rocky 3 stuff at the beginning. Sly decided to do that. Didn't quite work for us. It's weird that he used that, especially in 2021.
Yeah.
That's what I found odd. Now we've kind of aged the film again. We said we took everything out of the 80s, but no, I guess leaving that in, it's like, oh, this men don't say that now. I'm sorry, I'm not trying to be like woke or anything like that, but that's just dialogue we wouldn't write to, because we talked about that when we reviewed Rocky 2. A script writer wouldn't say that. You wouldn't say in today's terms. In 1979, sure, go ahead. But now that we've cut this film in 2020, 2021, I'm surprised Sly said, no, I'm going to double down on this man stuff.
What it means to be a man now is different.
Yeah, right.
Like masculinity is interpreted differently now, for better or for worse.
Yeah.
I think for better. It was definitely more macho back in the day, and I never liked that line from Rocky 2. So it sucks that it got brought up again.
It's weird. They actually advertised it too on their social media. So I found that odd. I found that of all the things, if I was in Sly's corner during this recut, I would have been Sly. Come on, like it's cringe to watch this Rocky 2, even though we recognize it was a sign of the times. So we have a chance not to bring this up again. It's weird that you would bring it up again. Mm-hmm. That's not a good line to repeat. And the next thing she was going to do was she was trying to leave the room, but he put his arm across the banister, didn't let her leave. No, I'm just joking. That was. No, I'm just joking. Yeah. So yeah, I just found it like of all the things to rehash. Very good point. Thanks for bringing that up, Katie. Appreciate that.
Safe to say he did not get laid before he left, though.
No, his legs were not weakened.
Yeah, no, that's what.
Well, they kept the montages in. They kept the Robert Tepper song in. I think it would have been anarchy had he taken those out. I think Sly even knew we got to keep the training in.
Yeah.
But did you notice, though, that the second training montage, before he climbs the mountain, that they extended the training? There was additional scenes. There was additional skipping rope scenes, different angles. The music montage was extended. When he's running with the cars, you could tell that they were kind of repeating the loop to extend the music to make it match when he goes up the mountain. So they added new footage. And so at whatever point at the end of the training, they extended the build-up. Kind of repeated itself on a loop a little bit, which is great. That just means the training montage is longer. By how many seconds, I don't know, but it's definitely longer because they had to extend the song.
Did you guys see in the barn training montage? I'm pretty sure it was new, but there was a look. They show Adrian when they're she's watching him train, and they show her, and the look that she has is like, yep, that's my man. Did you guys see that?
I think that was in the first one.
I thought that was in the first. Yeah, but I think it was. I noticed, like, I think it was sort of insinuated in the first one, but it seemed more.
I really noticed it this time. I was like, yeah, I'd be that way too, Adrian. I got to tell you.
Yeah. In fact, they actually showed a new scene that Paulie wasn't roasting his marshmallow over a flame anymore. It was over Adrian. Oh boy!
Tastes like my sister. I like it.
My sister's busted.
I was nervous. Speaking of the Robert Tepper, but I gotta say, I was super nervous that they were gonna remove the "Living in America" sequence, and I'm so glad it's still in. It's like one of my favorite parts. I love it.
Yeah, I think even Sly knew you can't take. I think he was already pushing enough fandom with the robot, and so I think he kind of knew. Yeah, there's the songs in the movie are definitely highlights. So again, back to the final fight. Big change for me was there was no music. There was no that battle theme. The Vince DiCola battle theme was an empty sounds. It was just them hit. Yeah. It didn't feel triumphant, and that was obviously an intentional choice. It just felt like a brutal fight, and it really just felt brutal. They're at war, these two. They're just who wants it most. They were just kicking the crap at each other. It didn't feel triumphant. He won. I don't know. I didn't feel the same way I felt watching the original. It felt different. It felt darker.
The music definitely adds to the emotional connection to it and to rooting for Rocky. So I missed it.
Yeah.
From an artistic point of view, I think I like that, the no music. First of all, I like to say I actually like that fight music. I thought that was a nice change from the typical stuff we hear in all the other Rocky fights, which I didn't mind hearing again, like in Rocky Balboa or even in Creed when they bring it back. I'm fine with it. Like I like that too. But it was a nice change of pace, and I actually enjoy that fight music in 4. The idea that, like what Adrian's saying, like if you beat him, Apollo's still dead.
Yeah.
Like, it's not like you really have won. I think not having the music and showing it as a brutal fight and showing Rocky that no, this doesn't feel like a victory because my friend's still gone.
Yeah.
Like, that makes more, from an artistic perspective, makes more sense to me, even though it is less fun to watch.
Yeah.
That's a good point. I don't recall in the original, this one, the two fighters at the end. Like, I don't know if they touch gloves or something. When he walks out, he just walks out of the ring.
They didn't touch gloves in the original. No. He went over before then. He did the final speech. They toned down the speech, like he did. Everybody could change. It was an alternate take, obviously, because he already filmed it. They must have done more than one take. The take that they showed in this cut was more subdued. Everybody could change. I thought a really awkward line, and I don't know why he did it. Because in the original film, when he said, I was told that people can't change. I always took that to be, that was from Adrian's discussion at the stairs where he told Rocky, why can't you change your way of doing things? Everyone else does.
Yeah.
But in this film, he referred to the change that he talked about his friend Apollo, the change speech. Like, that kind of took away from the Adrian stairway discussion. But then he says, my best friend, he changed. He's dead. Like, that was
It was weird.
It was a weird segue.
Yeah, that agreed. Yeah, that's weird.
Yeah, death would be, we all change when we die. I agree.
My Russian-speaking friend who reviewed the Russian in this film, I can't remember what line it was, but when that guy was translating for Rocky, at least in the original speech, he made like a serious error in the translation. Like, he said something really stupid. Like, he used like the wrong word or something, even though he said that translator was a native speaker, you could tell.
Right.
I'm curious if that translation was good in this one.
Oh, maybe.
As opposed to the last one. I'm going to have to let him listen to that and see.
But I'm confused by why Rocky did go over to the corner to give Drago, like, a respectful...
I guess it sort of negates what I was saying before about making it fit better with Creed 2, because that part of it wouldn't make sense, because they seem to still really despise each other.
Yeah.
In Creed 2.
We put our dogs out in here in America. Like, Rocky was pissed in Creed 2.
And he was like, I don't think of that, or there's no pictures of that. Like, it was, I don't know.
It doesn't quite...
some odd choices.
It doesn't quite merge with Creed 2 now, but I wonder if Sly could give two craps about Creed 2. Maybe he doesn't care how it fits into Creed 2. But it does seem like an odd choice that, the characters, the way they ended in Rocky 4, don't seem now like the same characters that we got in Creed 2. Why would the animosity build over and I can understand Drago losing his wife and family. Yes, he's angry, but Rocky seemed really angry in Creed 2 compared to his feelings when he left the ring.
Mm-hmm.
I think Rocky being angry in Creed 2 makes less sense.
Now it does, right?
Rocky to me doesn't seem like someone who holds a grudge or is that dark and bitter like that, personally speaking. Granted, you could have an exception for someone that kills your friend. However, if I didn't know Creed 2 existed, I could see him coming over to Drago because they went through something together. Like, he punished this guy and received punishment in return in a weird way. That's a very intimate type of experience.
Mm-hmm.
And I could see him saying, like, yeah, I've beaten you. I've kind of avenged Apollo. Like, you could change, you could change. Like, within that whole theme, him kind of trying to not be a dick at the end. With Creed, when he's so angry like that, I could see him maybe having that response because Drago was saying stuff and was threatening and things like that. But to me, that Rocky being angry in Creed is kind of more out of character versus what Rocky did in this cut.
I know there's a lot of things we missed.
There's a big one. That we didn't talk about. The beginning. Gloves exploding.
Yeah.
I really liked it. I know it's very 80s-esque, but...
he took everything out that was 80s.
It was the time, like the Soviet East versus West, and they still keep some of those pieces in.
Yep.
And then also, this really bothered me. The new music at the beginning.
The Sweetest Victory? Was the Sweetest Victory?
What the hell is that? Yeah, I did not. What is that? No.
It's a lame song. It really is a bad song.
Like, why was that inserted? And then the end song is Eye of the Tiger. No. What is this? Rocky 3? No.
Yeah, agreed. They should have kept the other music.
Yeah. I don't know. Those things bothered me.
Your points of bother, I agree with. My final thoughts on the film are, I'm glad Sly did it. Just at the very least, just to see Sly do something. The tinkering doesn't bother me. It's his right. He's the author and creator of the series, and this is something he felt like he had to do. This was his beast in the basement that he had to let out. It was an interesting experience, and I liked a lot of it. Don't get me wrong. Like every Rocky film, except for the first Rocky, there's something in every film that I think have been pretty clear that it wasn't perfect in our eyes as the viewers. How I've made peace with this film, it does not replace the original cut. It just gives us a different point of view, a different angle. No canon has been erased. It might confuse some parts in Creed 2 a little bit about character development, but I guess in 30 years people change anyways, just like you said, so maybe their views of this night changed over the years. That's fine. It's normal. We're human. But canon hasn't been changed. Nothing. The universe has not been altered in the Rocky universe. If you missed the robot, go back and watch the robot. If you want a non-80s, you can watch the non-80s. Either way, you're going to get a Rocky 4 film, and you can roll into Rocky 5 without any confusion.
Well said, Ryan.
I prefer the darker. I like this perspective. There are some serious missteps. What Katie mentioned with the music, with the Rocky 3 6-minute thing, no. But I really like your perspective, though. It's both being canon, just from different viewpoints. I feel the exact same way.
I feel the same in that, like, I'm glad to have more from Sly, and I like a more mature Sly. I think maybe the output format, I would have preferred not be another version of the movie, but just some, like, an additional director's comments, re-release, like an edition with some extended footage or deleted scenes plus director commentary or something, like more so that. But overall, more dramatic, good things about it, bad things about it. For me, the original is still better.
Okay.
I think.
Yeah, that's great. All right. Well, if you like or don't like our thoughts, send us an email at gtdwithrr@gmail.com. We'll read that out on whatever episode we get the email on, because everyone listens to the show at different paces and times. Also, our next episode will be our continuation of the Creed 2 series, so we invite you to join us for that, speaking of Creed 2. Well, Katie, you weren't here last time, so why don't you take us out?
Ding, ding.
We're not destructible, baby, better get it straight. I think believable, I give in the hand is fate. Something will run for, something will never die. I'm asking of a chance, just one and only while. Where's no easy way out? Where's no shortcut home? Where's no easy way out? You can't be wrong. I don't want passive view. I don't drive you down by feeling prisoner. Last running at you down. I see the angry faces. Fred could be letting me. Thinking about might have been. I think about used to be. Where's no easy way out? Where's no shortcut home? Where's no easy way out? Give the God